Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Thank you all for tuning in. Let's try to get this video to 2,000 likes. If you enjoyed at any point, please give it a thumbs up and help share the love around Gotham Knights. So I wanted to talk about this tweet from Greg Capullo that was quickly deleted with the quickness, which you always know a tweet is juicy when it gets deleted, within like a minute or two of it being posted. And this tweet was Greg Capullo, and the caption is, "I know it seems like I'm not, but trust me, I'm working." And you can see in the photo, it is Batgirl, Nightwing, Robin, etc. But it's not just them. It is them in the Gotham Knights costumes. So obviously everybody in the comments quickly noted that he is working on a prequel comic for Gotham Knights, or just a comic book tie-in series of some kind. James Sigfield tweeted about this per a now deleted tweet. Artist Greg Capullo is working on something related to Gotham Knights. If I had to guess, like many other superhero video games, it's some sort of comic book tie-in. Not to get too in the weeds on this, but one of the big complaints that DC Comics has right now is that all of their books are focused so heavily on Batman, and that's always going to be the case because he's their biggest revenue driver. But right now, it's really ridiculous. We're going back to Rebirth in 2016 when they launched so many other titles that were really good, like Titans and Teen Titans and, all of that, and Suicide Squad even. They've canned a lot of their titles and just made more Batman spin-off books. So I, for one, am really looking forward to reading Gotham Knights. Also, in the past, we've had a pretty good history with comic books and graphic novels surrounding DC video games. The Injustice comics are pretty damn solid, and the Arkham Knight books are really good, in my opinion. Arkham City has some really good prequel comics, some of which are written by Paul Dini, which is even better. And Arkham Knight had some pretty good ones as well, although not quite as good as what Paul Dini did in the Arkham City time. So with that being said, it appears that Greg Capullo is going to be drawing the comic. He is a comic book artist. And not only that, please remember that Greg Capullo is the first to have drawn the Court of Owls, because he was the artist on the 2011 New 52 Batman run when the Court of Owls were introduced. So this is sort of all coming full circle, and it makes a lot of sense that Greg Capullo would be doing art on the book. And honestly, what this also indicates to me is that there is a high probability that Scott Snyder, the creator of the Court of Owls, who was consulted by WB Games Montreal in the creation of the Court of Owls, is maybe writing the Gotham Knights prequel comic. So it's sort of a rehash of what they did in 2011 and the team in 2011 that wrote the Batman New 52 run. And as frequently as the New 52 is criticized by fans across the spectrum, again, not to go too deep into comics because I know most of you guys are here for the video game stuff, but the New 52 was heavily criticized by many people. But the Batman run is often considered a bright spot, perhaps maybe excluding the last volume or two when they started getting into Jim Gordon being Batman and lots of other crazy stuff. But it started off really, really good, and the Court of Owls, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3 in that New 52 run, I would highly recommend, particularly if you're a fan of Gotham Knights and are looking forward to the game. Now, I want to talk about what I would like to see in this prequel comic or comic spinoff. Again, we don't know exactly that it's a prequel, although in Arkham Knight, it was a prequel. And in Arkham City, it was the same thing. Part of what you saw in the Arkham City comics is how Arkham City got to the place that it was leading up to the events of Arkham City. In other words, they show the Joker taking a boat from Arkham Asylum to the Sionis steel mill in Arkham City, and it explains why he sets up in the steel mill. It sort of provides some backstory and relevant information. It fleshes out the world a little bit and gives you some backstory. And I, for one, think that this is much needed in the Gotham Knights universe because we're getting a new Batman universe in this game. And this new Batman universe does not have Batman. It does not have Commissioner Gordon. It frankly, or luckily, does have Alfred, but even that wouldn't have surprised me if they kill him off or somehow he's not in it or he's a hologram or some shit like that. But yeah, we don't have Bruce Wayne, we don't have Jim Gordon, and that's just who we know is dead. That doesn't even include the other Batman rogues that I'm sure they're going to say are dead in the universe, and so much more. So I think the prequel comic, frankly, again, I'm advocating for adding another Batman comic to their slate that they already have a shit ton of Batman comics, but I do think that this run should focus more heavily on Batman. In fact, I would really like if the series barely featured the Bat family altogether, or it featured them sort of tangentially behind Batman, because the main question that I have in this universe, and the other thing to keep in mind, obviously, is that we're going to get to play as the Bat family this entire game. So we're going to get to become familiar with Batgirl and Nightwing and Robin and Red Hood in this universe very, very well. You know, we're going to get a lot of screen time with them. I don't think we're going to have any shortage of content with those 4 characters. But the character that we will have a shortage of content with are characters like Jim Gordon and like Bruce Wayne. So what I would really like to see from this comic is the part of the Gotham Knights Batman universe that we are otherwise not able to see, and they're currently not going to show us in the game. So I want to see Batman in his prime when the Bat family was still there, but he was also a part of the picture and obviously leading the Bat family. I would like to see Jim Gordon, at least to some extent, and the relationship between Jim Gordon and Barbara Gordon, which is one of the highlights of Batgirl Year 1 and, you know, Batgirl New 52 and many other great, iconic Batgirl stories. So I would like to really see a lot there. And fundamentally, I want this series to just deliver different content than we otherwise would get in the game. And what I mean by that is I want this series to complement what we're actually going to be getting in the game. And again, in the game, we're going to be getting a lot with the Bat family and the 4 lead characters in the game. So I kind of want to see some other characters. I want to see some villains that are not going to be in the game. What does the Joker look like in this universe, for instance, if he's not going to be in the main game? And by the way, the Arkham Knight prequel comics did a really good job at this, where they actually highlighted a lot of characters that either got very little play in Arkham Knight or had nothing to do with it and weren't in the game at all. And there are numerous examples in the Arkham Knight prequel comics where, in fact, Arkham Knight kills multiple villains in the Arkham Knight prequel comics and kills them permanently in the Arkham universe. And the great thing about that is you have to read the comic to actually get that story. One of the big traps that spin-off comic books fall into when it comes to video games is they are sort of superfluous. You don't actually need to read them. They're not actually relevant. They don't add very much, and you don't need to read them to understand the story. And while obviously they're not going to make it so that you don't understand what's happening in the Gotham Knights video game if you don't read the prequel comic, what I do think is that I want to actually feel like I'm getting value and I am learning more about this universe and the characters within this universe by buying the comics. And the fastest way to do that, in my opinion, is to show us different characters than we're getting in the game. So, for instance, I don't really want to see Mr. Freeze in this prequel comic. Like, we're already getting him in the game. I want to see characters that we're not going to get in the game. I want to see Bruce Wayne. I want to see Batman. And I want to see Commissioner Gordon, to name a few. That's really the way that I feel about it. Lucius Fox, who I also haven't heard anything about being in the game, although not ruling it out, but I just haven't heard anything about it. So that's what my sort of wish list is for this prequel comic series. Again, it could be a sequel, very unlikely. I do think it'll probably be a prequel story, and it would be absolutely great to see Batman. I mean, the fan enthusiasm for that comic book would be through the roof, whereas the Arkham Knight prequel comics, again, they don't really add a whole ton. Like, they expanded more on the Arkham Knight character, but we want to see more about Batman, and so give us a mini-series about what Batman was like in this universe, and we will all be rushing to the stores on Wednesday, Comic Book Day, to go pick that up. So hopefully we'll get to see a little bit of Batman in the forthcoming Greg Capullo Gotham Knights prequel comic. Let me know what you guys thought about this video in the comment section below, and are you looking forward to reading this comic? Let me know down below. See you guys in the next video. Peace out.